Hi everybody, Carol here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be making a card that is what we call an interactive card or a pop-up card of sorts, but a little different. And you'll see it's a little more involved and may take a little longer than normal. But I'm cutting out some paper here. I'm going to have this card will have two card bases basically, and one is 6 by 4 inches, 8 inches, and the other one is 6 by 8.5. And they'll be folded in half and glued together, as you'll see in a minute. And I'll do some scoring different places, and we'll cut out a window. And this is also known as a dangle card because things are going to be dangling down from it. I first saw this card from Sandy Genovese. I don't know if you are familiar with her or not, but she is just a very talented lady, and I know there are other cards like this out there, but it's been so long ago since I saw hers. I don't know how much mine is actually like her, so I wanted to give her credit and thank her for the idea and all the things that she's done through the years. But anyway, so then I'm going to score this now. The larger sheet is on the front. The smaller size, which is just a ½ inch difference, we'll score it one time right down the middle. And then the larger one, we will score down the middle, but we want that to be a mountain fold. So it will stick out in front, and it's easier to fold it if you fold on the side that you just creased. So I'm going to turn it over, and then the 2 1/4 inch marks, I will make those, they will be valley folds. And so I'm scoring on the back side. And yes, I could have measured down, but it just, without having to do any math, I just flipped it over and did the 2 1/4 inch measurement there with the folds. So what has to happen is, in order for all of this to work, is and there I am scoring right down the middle for the back, and I'll put that aside for later. I will also cut out a small piece of patterned paper that'll go down the middle of that back piece, but you'll see that later. Okay, so in order to make this be the card that it has to be, I am cutting out a little window, and I have a sheet of paper in a minute that gives you the exact measurements, and you can do it one of two ways, or probably more than that, but you can measure down exactly. It's a 1 1/4 inches from the top. At least that's where I put mine. You can do it any way you want to. And then I measured over how far I wanted it to extend out, and then draw the lines, and then I thought about cutting it on the trimmer. And then I thought, well, you know, another way that I could do this is with scissors. And then another way I did it was to go ahead and cut a rectangle that size, fold it in half, and just slide it over the fold of the card. And I'm measuring to see how far down to bring that, and it doesn't have to be exact, but if I'm bringing it down 1 1/4 inches, and then just trace around that cutout. And then you don't have to do any measuring at all, except just the top one. And so I'm cutting that out with scissors, and that will be our little hole through which our dangles show, no matter what they are. And you could do this for different occasions using different designs. And I'm erasing all my pencil marks. And so here we are. That's what it's going to look like. Now I'm going to bring in my stamp set, and these are scraps of papers that I have that I'm going to stamp on with different colored inks. This stamp set is called Party Hardy, and I'm going to use almost every stamp in there in all different colors. And I'm getting it set up here. You will need 2 of all the little dangles because they're going to be front to back, glued front to back with a thread or a string in between them. So this these are little packages, little gifts with a bow on top, and I'm going to do a red one, so I need two to glue together front to back. Then I'm going to do a yellow one, and I have a die. I believe it's a Doris die. It's just that just happens to fit this pretty well, not perfectly, but I will go back later and cut these out with this die. But then I did a green one. So I'll have red, green, and yellow for those. And then there's another stamp. If you see this B, it says B for birthday. But I'm actually just going to use the little center of the B, the little design that's in there. It looks kind of like a little spoke or a fan or a wheel, something that would go around. I'm not really sure what it is. It's a design. And so I'm doing two of this color. And then I will do two more in blue. And I don't need the top part of the B or any of that other. So I used one piece of paper behind the other just for a scrap, but it fits it perfectly, so it wasn't necessary. The ink wasn't going to get off unless I just made it get off. But anyway, so then there you go with that. And I will cut those out too. And then one of the other stamps is a row of party hats. And so I'm getting out different colored markers to color each one of the hats so that I wouldn't have to try to even maneuver them over an ink pad. So I'm starting with the green, and with these using the fatter brush end of the tip, whatever you have and use. So I'm using green and red and yellow and orange. No, I think I did not use the yellow after all, the orange and blue, and coloring them on. And then I go back later and kind of put a little more ink on them, just the first ones that I did, just in case they might have dried out a little bit. Even gave it a huff of hot air to kind of revive it a little bit. And so I will do more than one of these, but I won't waste your time showing me that I'm doing that. But and then I will press it on down, and I'm lining it up in the corner of the paper because I'm going to just cut this out as a long rectangular strip. And so now there's some other stamps I'm going to use the black VersaFine with. This one I'm actually going to use green with, and it says "and many more." It's a little tag that when you say happy birthday and many more. And I'll do a couple for safekeeping and go ahead and set it aside. And then use the VersaFine black onyx ink to do the little sentiments. And one of them says happy birthday. One of them says you take the cake. Another one says party hardy. And again, I will just take these, since they're straight, I will just take them to the paper trimmer and cut out the one that I want to use. And get some of my Tombow glue on the back and set them aside and let them dry, and have them ready to glue on the front of actually the inside of the card, which you'll see in a little while. Now I've gone ahead and cut these out, and I'm showing you the thread, just plain old sewing thread, but you could use something else if that's what you wanted. I've gone ahead and put some glue on it. I'm just going to show you how this works. I'm checking to be sure the bow is at the top of the little circle, so that when it's hanging, it will, be hanging right side up. And it's a little tricky working with something as thin and flimsy as sewing thread, but I got it on there, caught on some of that glue, and then I'm turning the other half of it over to be sure the bow is at the top, and then I will stick them together. And then what's nice about these little circles is you can just pick them up and mash them with your fingers all around the edge and get them lined up very easily. So there's one, and then I'll do the next one. And I did cut the thread different lengths so that it will hang different levels in that little window. So here comes the second one, trying to line that thread up. And then put its top on. And it goes fairly fast. Pick it up and line those circle edges together. And then there's the second one. So we'll do the same thing with the others. And I'll speed it up and so you don't have to watch me do all of them. And then there's the last one. So they are ready to go. So you pull your back sheet over, and this is what I told you that I cut a small piece of pattern paper to put it on the back card, the outside base card, because I want, when you look through the window, it has a little something behind there instead of just plain white, stark white paper. So here we go. I'm going to put these down, space them out a little bit between the gifts or the presents and then the little wheel, whatever that is, and try to keep my threads halfway straight and just see how, if these are lined up that in such a way that they will fit in the window. So I'm placing that down, and that's pretty good. And I'll get my Scotch tape out, and I just held them together and flipped them over, and that to me was the easiest way to keep it fairly the same way that I had it originally. So I got that tape stuck on my finger and I couldn't get it off. I finally just had to give up and peel it off. But there's one down. Then I'm trying to find the other thread, and I realize I'm just going to have my tweezers to separate those things. And put another one down. And one by one, get them taped down to the back. And it's not rocket science. There's nothing that says it has to be a certain way. But just to do like a way that you like the way it looks, and scatter them around as best you can. Now the other thing I did was I went back and put one long piece of Scotch tape across there, and keeping that fold bendable. And then I thought, well, even though it is on the inside of the card, I want that to be covered up. So I just cut a couple of pieces of white cardstock scraps and glued them down. Didn't set them aside to dry, just went ahead as is because it's on the back, and covered up that Scotch tape just in case anybody sees it back there. And I'm folding it to be sure it doesn't get caught in that fold, because that could make it difficult to fold. So there you go, and there you get the idea of how they dangle. They just twist and turn, and then go back and cut off your threads. And pretty effective for the relatively small amount of work, I think. I think it's a really nice look. Now there are the measurements if you need to write them down for future use. And this is just a size card I made. You could make it any size you wanted to. There are my hats. I'm bending them around that fold. That is a mountain fold there. And so mashing that one down. And then I decided to use one of the cupcake stamps, and I had stamped this all in yellow, but I decided to make it 2 different colors, and so I just set that aside. I already had one cut out with the yellow frosting and then the blue paper cup for the cupcake, and I'm going to put some glue on it, let it dry for a second. Then one of the word sentiment stamps that I had, goes under that cupcake, so I just moved it back over just to show the placement where it would be. On the other side, I put happy birthday, and we'll have party hardy. Come back with you take the cake. And then here is the other one that we stamped, and many more. And I had already cut one out, and I'm punching a little bitty, I guess that's a 1/16 inch hole at the top, and putting one piece of straw through it, or raffia, and tying a knot in it, just to show you how it's done. Instead of making it off camera, I'll let you see how I do it. Just tie a little knot at the top. And I'll put some glue on it too, just kind of at the upper half. And let it dry for just a second. I had cut out another party hat, and it already has glue on it, so I will put it down. And so there's quite a lot in the inside of it, and I think it's very festive and colorful. Now, what I'll do is, while those other two pieces are drying, I'll flip this over and put some glue on those outer 2 1/4 inch pieces, because they will go across or on top of that back base card, and they will fit together, and they won't fit perfectly, and therefore that will cause one to stick out from the other. And so here I am gluing the back on, just lining up the edges. Pull one side over and line it up, and then pull the other side over and line it up. It won't be a flat flush fit, because we want there to be some separation between the two for the dangles. Now, one thing I didn't do was to push that centerpiece back out to a mountain fold. I still have it mashed back in flat, because I had a little bit more gluing to do. As you know, we still have the cupcake and the "and many more" tag. So it was easier to work with it if that was still mashed in the middle. But when this is all said and done, the middle window will be a mountain fold, and it will come back out. And so that when the card is opened by the recipient, that will be popped out. And so there you can see the inside and how it works. You can see how the little dangles dangle. And I mean, that could be stars, that could be hearts, it could be so many things. It could even be some of those little party hats there. But that is just to show you. And then the pattern paper in the back, just I have another one that you'll see at the very end, and it has different pattern paper, and just to show you different looks. Now, frankly, I don't think the front even needs to be decorated. You could just very simply say, "To so-and-so from your name," or "love your name," or "happy birthday," and it could just be your space to write a personal note to them. And then when they open it, that's where you have 2 pages of decorations inside. But I went ahead and just put something on the front. Have a die cut of happy birthday. And so I just cut that out, put some little dots of glue across the back, and wrote the happy. I had to separate the birthday because that was such a long word, and made a little hyphen that I couldn't pick up very well, so I tried to use my tweezers, and I was still having a time with it, but eventually got it down there. Put the birth and the word day, and I believe this was a Doris die also. But there's the day, and whatever you have, maybe you've got a one that says there's Doris, or whatever that was. I can't read it from here, but I think that's what it is. And maybe you had the word celebrate, just anything really, a big old love or hugs and kisses or something like that. So I cut out another cupcake and put those 2 together, 2 different colors, and call that card made. And so there you are. When you open it up, that is what it will look like. So I'm getting them all to hang down there. And there it is. So I'm going to zoom in and show you a close-up picture. I'm going to slide my little bottle of glue under there so that it will stay up enough that you can actually see it. And then after that, I'll have some still photos for you to see. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you'll give this a try. It's a little more work, granted, but it's a lot of bang for your buck. I mean, I really think that it's very effective, and it's the interactive part. When someone opens it, it's up to them to make this work, and they're the ones that will make it active, so that will be fun for them and something they can look at over and over again. So thanks for joining me. It was a lot of fun, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.